Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've been given the onerous task of moderating this session. I was supposed to be a panelist and a speaker, but I've got upgraded like many airlines do. Well, to begin, we are talking about how to make India a warship building hub. And to this, I've got three panelists with me who are all specialists in their own field. We've got a specialist from design. We've got a specialist from Center for China Studies and an ex-naval officer, Commodore Vasan. And we've got Commander Vasudev Puranik from the Mazagon Dock Limited, who's a specialist in submarine building, having dealt with it for over 10 years now. So to put things in context, I would just touch upon where we are now insofar as shipbuilding is concerned, where the world is as far as shipbuilding is concerned. First of all, the degree of disorder in the world is very, very high. As you see today, there are wars, there are trade wars, there are tariffs, there are realignments which are happening, and all across the world. It's not in any particular region. The seas are also hotting up. You've got the Indo-Pacific, which is a hot spot. You've got the South China Sea. You have the Taiwan Strait, and you have all kinds of asymmetric vessels being used in the Gulf of Aden, in the Straits of Hormuz, and asymmetric attacks by rebels, pirates, everything else on the rise. So therefore the seas are also hotting up. So this has inadvertently, willy-nilly led to increased risk, increased insurance costs, increased cost of goods, increased demand for warships to escort your own ships safely, to escort other friendly foreign country ships to safety. And of course, all this is also demanding that the sea routes are used more often to transport goods that are required to be shipped for exports or either import. So this is one part where there is a demand which has been created for securing the sea lanes of communication. The second aspect is shipbuilding itself. If you look at it, the shipbuilding has a 15-year boom-bust cycle. And like Admiral Lamba mentioned, the shipbuilding cycle went bust in 2008, 2009, when the Lehman Brothers happened and the whole world went into a recession. And now it's almost 15 years now. So that contraction cycle is on the ascendant now, and it is now that all European countries are scrambling to make new ships, and they're looking for shipyards to build these ships. Like Admiral Lamba said, Japan, Korea, and China are the largest shipbuilders. They hold more than 90% of the market share, 90% of the capacity. And these shipyards in these countries are all order books full. The US, as you would have read, is also now trying to match up numbers in terms of warships with China. It is also trying to ensure that ships traveling between US ports are only made in US, manned by US crew, and what have you. So therefore, they're also looking outwards, but mostly towards Japan and Korea for building their ships. So given this scenario where there is a scramble for making ships and there's a deficit in capacity, and that you need warships also for securing your sea lanes, you have a double, not kind of whammy, you have a double kind of a situation where from both sides you're being encouraged to build ships. So right now on this panel we have all specialists, and we have people who have deep knowledge about Indian shipbuilding. And what do we do for resurgence of shipbuilding in India? What do we do for renaissance of shipbuilding in India? How do we meet the demands? How do we capitalize on the demands that exist today? How can we bring shipbuilding back to India to its glorious old days, like what the former Chief of Naval Staff just mentioned? So I would request my panelists to take on one by one. Maybe Commodore Vasan could start on how we could actually rebuild our country, our shipbuilding industry, and in fact the ecosystem also which supports it.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Chair, for the introduction and making my job simpler. First of all, I must place on record my appreciation for Week and the entire team for starting off on this initiative. Last time I was associated with something which was very specific to the maritime domain, which they conducted in Chennai, the land of Cholas, if you want to call them that. And so therefore I consider it a great initiative in terms of trying to understand what challenges there are. And this time, of course, for this panel, it is to identify the challenges there are to make a builder's navy. My job again has been made simpler by the talk, special talk delivered by Admiral Sunil Lamba, who's seen it and who's been there as the Chief of Naval Staff and also thereafter as the Chairman of National Maritime Foundation. So the facts that have been brought out are very, very clear. In fact, when I was trying to choose a title for my talk, I did send it to the organizers, and it says Reclaiming the Waves. I don't know if we can reclaim the waves. And a strategic blueprint for India's maritime and shipbuilding renaissance. So these are, tall words, but what all is required to make this happen is perhaps something that we are going to discuss today. Again, I think, a lot of this which I have said has already been said by Admiral Lamba, so therefore I am not going to repeat it. He did focus on the India's importance in the Indian Ocean region, both in terms of maritime geography, which has given you that kind of advantage, access to the Indian Ocean region on both flanks, one on the Arabian Sea, the other on the Bay of Bengal, Andaman Nicobar Island groups of islands which is there, which has given you the forward push to take on our adversaries from the east. And again, importantly, in addition to the maritime geography, the maritime history. You go back to the study of maritime history, it will tell you that we had a glorious maritime heritage. Admiral Lamba also spoke about Lothal. The point is that what is it that we can do to again regain that space that we all are very proud of. So it's in that context that I want to present my facts. Admiral Lamba again did talk about China. A point is very simple. The number that is quoted are of great relevance to us. 51% of the entire tonnage of the global tonnage is built by them. Next, obviously, by South Korea, Japan, and even Philippines is ahead of us, as was brought out. And we are less than 1%. All of us are a little shy of saying it's even less than 0.1%. So they say it's less than 1%. So, we are getting away with these figures, but the point is the reality is that we are nowhere there. So first thing is to acknowledge where we have failed, and only then can you perhaps find some solutions which are required. Now, in terms of China, the figures that were quoted were 370 warships, which they have. Numerically, they are superior. I'm not going into geostrategy and tactics, where the mere numbers or possession of 3 carriers is not going to give them the edge that's required. They have 3 carriers. And they also got into technology. The emails which America has brought into their latest carrier has already got it. There's electromagnetic launch and recovery processes. So, how did they gain this ascendancy? Obviously, they captured the market because of the cheap labor which was there. They were able to invest through the SOEs, that the state-owned establishments in various shipyards, and they were able to accelerate the process of shipbuilding. And they captured the global market. About 175,000 tons was the figure that was quoted for 23-24, which they manufactured in their yards. So if they are that competitive and the shipbuilding industry is so mature, why would anybody buy from India? Simple. Remember we used this same as a thing of 3S: scale, speed, and what is the third thing? The 3 S's which are there. So it doesn't matter. The point is that if you do not have those numbers which are there, nor are you in a position to execute them with that kind of a speed, why would people come to you looking for ships from you? 95% of India's export-import is carried in foreign bottoms. We quote this figure everywhere, not with pride, but the acknowledgement that, we have not succeeded, where China, South Korea, Philippines, and others have succeeded in shipbuilding. So, I have many slides here. Unfortunately, there's not much time to show you those figures because those comparisons would have clearly brought out what are the areas in which China has succeeded over others. In terms of quality, in terms of on-time performance, in terms of thinking big, in terms of also what is more important to us, since I have both CWP&A and rep of mass docks, they have gone into dual-use shipbuilding in a big way. That means, if unlike us, where as the former Chief of Naval Staff also brought out, The order books today of MDL, CSL, GRSC, HSL and others are full because of the orders from the Navy and the Coast Guard. That's definitely not the way to progress. And what are the orders that are there for bulk carriers or VLCCs or LNG carriers or whatever? The numbers will tell you that we have not made any progress whatsoever. So unless the nation has this capacity to diversify its investments, there have been many recommendations which are made to say that the reason why the shipping industry has not taken off here is because of lack of investments. And there's a recommendation to that the shipping industry should be classified as infrastructure, which would allow them to get loans, which would allow them to sort of invest and also be competitive. That has not happened. The total bureaucratic processes which are there, which delays this kind of process. Also, there is a comfort zone in which the DPSUs, including the Navaratna companies, are located in. As long as they keep getting the order from the Navy and the Coast Guard, why would they worry about, taking on somebody else who is in China or Korea or Philippines? These are perhaps some of the realities that are there which stare us in the face when they are trying to analyze our own capability and capacity for shipbuilding, whether it is warships or even merchant ships. The warships is not a story of great success. Yes, like INS Vikrant, we are able to build our own. Amongst the three services, obviously, again, it is the Indian Navy that took a lead, and in 1972 we got our own first frigate, which we built. So we've definitely taken a lead as far as the Indian Navy is concerned. But if you are looking at the maritime geography, the maritime history, and the need for reclaiming your maritime heritage and glory, these will not happen unless we change the entire processes. And there, in fact, I was very happy to hear from Commander Puranik that they are also looking at, shipyards outside. You can't be stuck in Bombay and say, I'll build all the ships for the country and outside, sitting in Bombay. So, unless you are able to go acquire, shipyards outside, build that capability, expand, have your global footprints, how are you going to be competitive? So this comes with phenomenal amount of investments, and which is why I made that point about, identifying the shipbuilding industry as infrastructure projects, which allows them to draw investments from abroad, from various other people. So there have been many models which have been given in the past, public-private partnership, drawing investments, collaborating with foreign yards. The submarine story tells you that, we've been talking about the project 75I, and we've not made any progress. Surprising, because there's a lot of introspection that's required. We built 3 of our nuclear submarines on our own, Arihant, Arigat, and the new one, Arindam. So, if you have the ability to build a nuclear submarine, how is that we can't build a conventional submarine? Why is that we are dependent on somebody else? These are serious questions if you want to convert ourselves from a buyer's navy to a builder's navy. Otherwise, they'll continue to sort of be very happy that, you built your carrier, you got your nuclear submarines as for deterrence value as the triad. But unfortunately, shipbuilding, which is so vital, is facing headwinds, and therefore, unless we are able to refine the entire process, you will not be able to build the so-called force for the future. The force for the future cannot be on imported Rafales and frigates and submarines and whatever else there is. So there are many questions which are there. I am only posing some questions. There are some answers, but that requires the political leadership and those who are in the planning processes to look at it and implement them in a time-bound manner. So you have to hold people accountable and ensure that there is some kind of a sort of deliverables which are there, which come about because of intense actions which are time-bound. So, we are collaborating with others in forums such as the Quad, the IORA, the IONS, the BIMSTEC. These are forums where we should perhaps take a lead in offering this kind of capacity that we have for the smaller nations around us. So they are integrated into the entire scheme of shipbuilding. I think there's not enough time, so maybe, how much time is there, Admiral? 2 more minutes, good. Wherever I am talking, I always get 2 minutes. So, so the point is that to conclude, first thing is to try and evaluate why we have failed, where have we failed. Whether it's lack of policy decision, whether it's investments, whether it is collaborative efforts, or whether it is just laziness. or the comfort zones from which you do not want to get out. So you need to be able to question yourselves on why we not been able to progress on the so-called trajectory of shipbuilding and maritime self-sufficiency. And once you find those answers, then you need to work on that double time, because the climate is opportune today. Everybody is trying to look at the China +1 and we are the +1, provided you create that kind of a conducive environment for others to come and invest here. So without that, we will again miss the bus. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Commodore Vasan, for that talk. Now, there's one point which he's brought out, that the DPSU shipyards are not the only ones to make ships for the Navy. I think I have a contrarian view. I think the DPSU shipyards were built for making ships for the Navy, but now we are looking outwards. So let me know if the DPSU shipyards didn't start making ships for foreign countries, taking import orders for other commercial vessels. Where would you be, and what's your view on this? You may include it as part of your talk.
Good afternoon. I must first of all thank Admiral Swaminathan here and also the week. I represent the bad boys of the business. We have been the DPSU, I represent the DPSUs. So everybody feels that the DPSUs are the culprits, and today where we are, the country, is because of the DPSUs and the DRDOs. Well, I will not try to justify anything. I only give a different perspective. As a country, everybody tries to compare with China. That's a good comparison. It's always good to compare. But if you look back, China and India both were agro-based nations. We were more focused on agriculture and nothing else. But China jumped and moved into manufacturing. We continued to remain agro-based for a long time. The switch when we decided to go to manufacturing was in the 90s. And it's from then on that people started looking at, moment it is manufacturing, you have to look at efficiency. You cannot sell anything which you're manufacturing if you're not making it fast and at a competitive price. India, by its population, was not actually ready for manufacturing. Today, we are in a state, like he rightly brought out, we built nuclear submarines. 20 years down, we have an ecosystem which can make every part of the submarine that is needed. So far, I can't say that for the Army and the Air Force, but Navy had started this shipbuilding program by having a design directorate, I think somewhere in 1960s. So from then on, we have built about 28 war vessels at MDL alone. And they're all Indian naval designs. I had my friend here who was in GTRE, so I was telling him that I've been watching that GTRE program since I was in the Navy. You know, jumping into a gas turbine in 80s, manufacturing gas turbine in 1980s, where we don't have an ecosystem. He's saying I have to test it in America. I mean, come on, let's understand that part. I was just telling him, let's make a soft drink first to match Coke and Pepsi. It has got only 5 ingredients. Water, gas, flavor, sugar, and I think caffeine. We don't have a soft drink made in India which we can sell abroad. We are talking of warships, we are talking of submarines. I'm not talking of commercial vessels. You have graduated even beyond that. So it takes time. It definitely takes time. It requires an ecosystem. Ecosystem includes policies, support, technology, finance, and a commitment to remain committed in it. All these countries, we say that, you know, the world wars, I always joke that there were two world wars, World War I and World War II. Where was the world war? It was all in Europe. France, Germany, Italy, Russia, Spain, they were only fighting against each other, but they called it a world war. Neither was Australia involved, nor was Africa involved, nor was Asia involved, but it became World War. America was also not involved, it got involved only later. So these countries actually focused on defense, and that is why today these 4-5 countries are controlling the manufacturing of the technologies for defense. They had a legacy of wars. They had a legacy to, innovate and develop new technologies to defeat the other person, to defeat the other country. We didn't have all that problem. We did have, but those are very small wars which we fought. So today we have moved from that stage to a stage where we have got, as you rightly brought out, nuclear submarines. We have built an aircraft carrier. We have built, Mazagon docks has built destroyers, frigates, and submarines. In fact, on January 15th, we created a record, so for your information, 3 vessels on the same day was commissioned by the Prime Minister. So the other aspect is India's economy is also growing. See, when do you need security? The more richer you are, the more costlier your assets, the higher is your requirement for security. When you leave a house, you lock a house with a 100 rupees or 200 rupees or 1000 rupees lock. The house is worth in lakhs. But why are you putting that 100 rupees, 200 rupees lock? That lock is not required. You have created an ecosystem which will ensure that your house is not stolen or nothing gets stolen from your house. So you have to create, the larger your economy, the better your security has to be there so that the environment exists to do business and economy. So today India is in a sweet spot that we are 5th largest in the world in economy. We are going to graduate to the 3rd largest economy probably. So there is going to be money invested, even if it is 2% of your GDP. Every year the increase in your GDP will actually mean that you're going to invest more in your defense. So the industries have to understand that there is going to be money which the government will put for defense and security. It has to. It's mandatory now. We are becoming very rich. So industry has to remain committed. DPSUs, yes, we were not efficient, and that, let me be very frank with you, it was more by design. The contracts were cost plus. That means you please build this product. When you finish the product, you tell me what is the cost, I will pay you the money. Today it is, then from cost plus we moved to fixed price. Now from fixed price it has gone to competition. You have to be L1. So the design has changed. So efficiency comes when there is insecurity. So now the system is such that all the organizations have to be efficient. So that is how we are also delivering, and by being the lead shipyard in the country, like all other shipyards in the world, we are integrators. So there are going to be industries who are going to support us. A ship is like, it requires all kinds of equipment. It requires electrical, mechanical, the hull, steel. That's why they say that more you invest in shipbuilding, more your overall economy also grows. So we are going to be there. India is in a spot where we are going to have more orders, where we are going to have requirement of more ships. Our old ships have to be replaced. CWP&A is fully aware of it. While yes, the government has to commit funds, they will have to commit funds because there is no other option. It will happen. But yes, you need to be a little patient. The government has to decide where to allocate the funds and how to allocate the funds. So when it comes to future, yes, India today is in a position where we can look after ourselves. Now people are reaching out to us. For example, I can tell you the Scorpion program, I was part of the program. The French are wondering now, okay, how did these Indians make the remaining 4 on their own? We were there for the first 2. These people have finished it also. While the Brazilians and Chile and everywhere they struggled. They don't know how to maintain it. We Indians are very good. You teach the Indian once, the Indian will teach the teacher after that. So we have today reached a situation where we have enough capability developed and we have to only leverage it for exports. It will happen, and if not tomorrow, but very soon.
I ask you, if you're looking at exports, what kind of clientele are you looking at? If it's facilitated with the government, not facilitated with the government, what kind of order books are you looking at for warships?
Yeah,
Commercial ships you will get.
Understood. I think this is an important point. Mazagon docks, we suffer that problem, that we build destroyers and frigates and submarines. And, I always tell that part also, that we are the 5th largest economy. So if somebody wants to afford a submarine or a destroyer or a frigate, he needs to be at least somewhere near me in terms of his economy. The 4 countries above me don't need this. Now 5 countries below, they are not so big also. They are not, they are also like Japan and Germany and all of that. So they also don't need. So I have to go down the chain of countries, and what we have identified is there are countries in Latin America, there are countries in Africa, there are countries in Southeast Asia and in Middle East. So these are the countries, but of course their requirements are more for coastal protection. So it will be generally OPVs, FPVs, patrol vessels, for humanitarian relief operations, those type of vessels at the moment there, and also for supporting, like there are a lot of countries who are reaching out to us for maintaining their submarines, and some countries have reached out to us to, since we are a good shipyard which is doing well, they want us to look after the shipyards also, probably add infrastructure. So as a country, we are going together along with my civil companies in the civil infrastructure together to create infrastructure for other countries and also support their vessels in terms of repairs and refits.
So thank you very much. As Vasudev Puranik brought out of the 190 odd countries in the world, around 89 of them qualify for the IDEA scheme, where Indian development assistance is given in terms of a line of credit and things like that, and their requirements are all only small patrol boats, fast interceptor crafts, and maximum going up to the size of an OPV. So his assembly line actually goes waste unless the big 4 actually come down to us and take ships from us. He also mentioned about ship repair and shipyard maintenance, which is being approached for by different countries. So Jathesh, in your talk, you could also tell us the not only about shipbuilding, is ship repair also a very lucrative business, given that recently a private shipyard has actually started overhauling ships for the UK and the USA, and they've done a good job and they've made a name for themselves. So maybe you could cover this aspect also in your talk.
First of all, thank you, the organizers, for giving me the opportunity to talk in this forum. I am Jathesh Chandra. I am Deputy General Manager, Cochin Shipyard Design. Sorry. Yeah, I thought I will cover a few of the challenges which the shipbuilding, naval shipbuilding in India we face, right from the design. So maybe let me talk that first, sir. When we talk about the challenges, if you look at almost all the nations which has gone through this indigenization phase, they have gone through these challenges, this challenging phase, and India is also in that phase now. As far as Navy is concerned, naval vessels are concerned, Navy has gone a massive effort, a lot of effort in indigenization, and almost all the naval ships are now being constructed in India. Right now there are around 65 ships are being constructed in India, out of which CSL has got around 14, 8 ASW corvettes and 6 next generation missile vessels is being under construction in CSL. So in this phase, we face a lot of challenges. It's not that it was an easy job. Always we had challenges. We had cost overruns, we had schedule overruns, we had weight overruns. When you say all these things, we don't get ship in time. When you don't finish a ship in its budget, when you don't finish a ship in its budgeted weight, all these have impact on its performance. If you don't get a product in time, that has got impact on the Navy. So these are all which has happened to us in past. So, but with this, we have faced lot of failures, we have lot of lessons, and we can say we have got enough lessons in hand, and if we put in place all this, I am confident we are competitive enough for making ships for making ships for India. We were talked about whether it is can be exported, that we have to look at it. I think Commander Puranik has mentioned, not maybe the developed nations may require that, but the kind of vessels which we may be able to export is the OPVs or maybe the petrol vessels. That is true. Why? Because why? Because when we do indigenized design, those designs may not be suitable for the foreign clients. We use indigenized the products which are made in India, which may not have services and spares and services outside India. So this we faced initially when we had in the vessels which we had come from outside, and spares, we had to wait for the spares and weapons when we are in need. So right now these are being taken care. We have put a lot of efforts, and as far as equipments like steel, for example, we have developed our own steel, DMR steel, which is used around 30,000 tons in IAC, was fully developed in India. We have around 2,500 kilometers of cables in IAC, and complicated vessels, as we said, P15A and Bravo and 17 Alpha. See, these complicated designs is fully done in India. So with these lessons, I think we should be able to do much better designs and future vessels for the other nations also. It is possible, but we need to market. We need to have collaborations with foreign OEMs. These are all will have to be. We should have a futuristic vision. When you say naval vessels, particularly the naval vessels, the platforms are so complex. Right from the concept stage, the engineering stage, the procurement stage, the installation, the commissioning stage, all these has to be well planned. If there is a change in the plan, these projects are very long projects. During the concept stage, we may start with an idea which is best at that time, but when it's a long project, the technology will change, the revisions will come on, which will have impact on the design and also on the process flow, and which will affect the overall delivery of the vessel. And as I said, we have indigenized very much on the naval part, and also in the commercial shipbuilding. Right now there is a lot of impetus happening, because during the Russia-Ukraine war, that's the time when we wanted to import oil and gas from Russia. The government realized we don't have enough ships to import those from Russia. So that time there is a big call for Indian-made ships, Indian flag ships. So the government has made two big documents. One is Maritime Amritkal Vision and Maritime Amritkal Vision and MAKV 2030. These two vision documents actually give a lot of impetus to commercial shipbuilding also. So with Navy indigenization happening, as well as the commercial ship indigenization happening and the impetus happening on commercial shipbuilding, this is a right time and right spot for India to make India a shipbuilding nation, and our aim is to become the first 5 shipbuilding nation. So a lot of efforts needs to be put in. We have to utilize this time, and government has to handhold many things, There should be vendor development programs, industry academia collaborations. We should invest in universities, make sure the next generation we have got competent and skilled students coming out of universities, and they should be able to handle the required and the necessary skilled jobs. So this is something which I would like to take it as an opportunity to convey to all the policy makers and the decision makers that invest on the future also and have a long-term vision to tap these opportunities both in commercial and naval shipbuilding. So this is a way which we can become a big shipbuilding nation.
Thank you very much, Jathesh, and thank you all the speakers for making your contributions. So I think what comes out of it is that we have ample scope for ramping up our shipbuilding capacity. Of course, there are many shipyards the worldwide lining up in India, trying to see collaborations, partnerships to manufacture ships in India. But that is a very small part of shipbuilding. You've got about only 25% of the labor cost and 5% of the cost goes into steel. Everything else is equipment. So we can also focus on the equipment side by side so that we actually become a progressive shipbuilding nation. Thank you very much, my panelists, and thank you very much, The Week, for having us over.